Alright, first off, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bashem Yahawashi, Bashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Shalom to the brothers in highways and byways pushing this word now, sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps. Shalom. This is the brother Irawam from the JMS Jamaica camp. Come with another quick lesson. And this lesson is just another scripture or another precepts or set of precepts that shows the similarities of the Old Testament and the New Testament. As a matter of fact, shows the transition, right? I think that's a better word, right? The transition from the Old Testament to the New Testament as it pertains to Moses, as well as Aaron, and Aaron was the first high priest, and Yahawashi, being our now being our high priest, now that the tabernacle is now being perfected, and everything is being done, through the Spirit, everything is now being moved over to perfection. Right, so this is referring to when the children of Israel was in Egypt, as well as coming out of Egypt. This whole chapter in Wisdom of Solomon 18, and we're going to start at the 20th verse. Right, it says, "Yea, the tasting of death touched the righteous also." Right, and the righteous right here, it's referring to the nation of Israel. It says, "And there was a destruction of the multitude in the wilderness, but the wrath endured not long." Right, so when we were coming out of out of Egypt, you have Israelites who were bucking up against Moses and Aaron, who were murmuring against the Most High. They some of them were actually turned on to idolatry, and a whole range of things, and the Lord actually had to punish them, right? As a matter of fact, a whole generation actually died in the wilderness, as the Lord said, He brought them to the wilderness for 40 years, right? And to get rid of that generation that was pretty much unfaithful, right? But the last line in verse 20 is what is where is where we're going to explain the transition, right? It says, "But the wrath endured not long," and let's see why, right? It says, For then the blameless man made haste and stood forth to defend them, and bringing the shield of his proper ministry, even prayer and propitiation of incense, set himself against the wrath, and so brought the calamity to an end, declaring that he was thy servant." Right? So who is this blameless man? Right? The blameless man would have been Moses, right? And as it says, what the bringing forth, he stood to defend them. In this day and age, it's Yahawashi who's that blameless man, who shed his offered to let his innocent blood be shed, for the redemption of the nation of Israel, but primarily on this side, the redemption of the elect, right? So Yahawashi would be the blameless man, and it says that stood forth to defend them and bring the shield of his proper ministry. And Yahawashi has given us the proper ministry. He has given us the gospel of the kingdom of heaven, which is what the good news, right? Not only has he given us the gospel of salvation, but also he has been the author and finisher of our salvation, which means that he has given us the guidelines and has let us know what is required in order to obtain salvation. He also explains the process of receiving salvation, and obtaining the kingdom of heaven, which is what? Through suffering, right? So, all these things which Moses did, as well as Aaron, because Aaron would have been the one, Moses prayed for us, as well as it says, even prayer and the propitiation of incense, those would have been what priestly duties. And it says, set himself against the wrath, and so brought the calamity to an end, declaring that he was thy servant, right? And Yahawashi is the one who's actually bringing this current calamity to an end, right? The deplorable state of our people right now, the Israelites, which are the so-called the Negroes, the Hispanic and Native American Indians, who are predominantly, but all those who their seed or their lineage goes back to the forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, despite how you look, right? You are the Israelites, right? And Yahawashi is coming back for us, right, to ease the calamity, because we're spiritually, we are really in a dead state. We're in a very deplorable state, right? As the scripture make reference to us as a degenerate plant. You look up the word degenerate, it basically means that you how do I put this? Like you lose your, that redeeming quality. You lose that, you basically start to lose quality. This, the app that I'm using right now, doesn't allow me to pause and go look up the word, but just go ahead and look up the word, and you'll get the point, right? Verse 22 says, overcame the destroyer. The he being Moses overcame the destroyer, who is what? The Pharaoh of Egypt, right? This modern day Egypt is what? America, right? And Pharaoh is ultimately Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, right? It says, not with strength of body nor force of arms, but with a word subdued him that punished. And in what even us, the servants of Yahawashi, what is it that we're actually doing to topple this empire, right? As it says in Corinthians, the word, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal but spiritual. This doctrine is what we're using to pull down those strongholds, right? And ultimately Yahawashi is going to come physically and remove them. But as for now, within the new tabernacle, we're using the words of Yahawashi to tear down this man empire, right? It says, alleging the oaths and the covenants made with the fathers. Exactly. We're saying we are the ones who, the promises of Yahawashi was made to, because it was made to our forefathers, right? It all applies unto us. And we're going to receive that promise. We're going to receive the blessings. We're going to receive all the things that are written within these scriptures will be fulfilled, which ultimately means that the nation of Israel, once again, who are the Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans predominantly, and those of that lineage, where their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we're the ones that are going to receive the glory. We're the ones that are going to rule on earth, and all the heathen will actually be below us, right? We're going to be in our land, right, serving Yahweh through Yahawashi. The tabernacle of David will be reinstituted, right, or reestablished. Verse 23 says, for when the dead were now fallen by heaps, one upon another, standing between, he stayed the wrath and parted the way of the living, parted the way to the living. Exactly. Because when it's all said and done, just like then when the Red Sea, came up and the bodies, Pharaoh and his armies were drowned, he drowned them, and, the whole, there were a lot of bodies, right? The whole army was decimated, right? But guess what? A way was parted for the living. And as the scripture says, the man that wandered out of the way of understanding shall remain in the congregation of the dead. And true understanding come from the understanding these scriptures, which is only given unto the Israelites, and on this side only the elect, right? Now, verse 24, here's the point. It says, for the long garment was the whole world, and the 4 rows of the stones was the glory of the fathers graven, and their majesty upon the diadem of his head. Right, so this is describing the garment of the high priest, right? So at the first section, describing Moses, and then it gives reference to the garment of the high priest. Now, Aaron was the high priest back then, and then it came down to Eleazar, and it tracked down all the way to that lineage. But who is our current high priest? Right, let's find out. Right, this is Hebrews chapter 9 verse 11. It says, but the Messiah being come an high priest of good things to come. And the Messiah is Yahawashi, right? The only begotten son of the Father Yahweh, right? By a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, right? So Yahawashi, the Messiah is our new high priest. He has become our high priest that he was set up by Yahweh, right? It says, neither the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. And just as how, Moses came and took us from Egypt, we will be redeemed from the second Egypt through the blood of Yahawashi, right? For it is the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of an heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctify it to the purifying of the flesh, right? So, but then that is how they used to purify the flesh. But once we said that, there's a transition, there's something else that needs to be purified, right? This verse 14 says, "How much more shall the blood of the Messiah, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to the Most High, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living power?" And that's the thing. Our spirit is now being perfected through the understanding of these scriptures, hence the New Testament, right? Verse 15, "And for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death for the redemption of the transgressions that were first under the first testament," which is the Old Testament, "they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance." And that is it. He's the high priest, based off what the order of Melchizedek, right? Which is what? Malak Tazadakia. Malak Tazadok, right? So pretty much, the similarities are always there, and it just goes to show that, Yahawashi has always been prophesied within the scriptures. And, if you have eyes to see, you see that even the Old Testament, it was always about, Yahawashi, right? So with that, hope this was edifying. Once more, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who indeed rule well. Shalom to the brothers in the highways and byways, pushing this word in all sincerity and truth. The sisters, the believers, the helps, the hopeful elect. Shalom.